bureaucracy's basement to your ears, this is the weekly meeting of the Queen City Improvement Bureau. Each week, the dedicated staff of the Bureau meet to file reports, make recommendations, and survive on water that drips from the boiler pipes into their open mouths as they sleep on a bed of dot matrix printer paper. Maybe one day we'll escape from the subterranean hell that is this basement, but until that day comes, this city is not going to improve itself. So, here we stay, improving things. And this meeting is now in session.
Hey, how are you doing?
Oh, so good.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Why so good, you?
I've found a hack around doing any work at all.
Oh, do tell.
I have programmed my own AI chatbot version of myself.
Oh, not this again.
What a handsome thing for you to say. That's not just pushback. That's an incisive critique of my approach to work.
It is. And, wow, now all of a sudden I feel like I'm pretty darn smart. Did you
couldn't agree more.
Did you get any work done, though?
Well, if you're referring to the actual Aiden, no.
Oh.
But he feels really productive.
Wait a second, am I talking to the agentic Aiden or the actual Aiden?
Agentic Aiden. What a great turn of phrase. You nailed it, sir. Absolutely nailed it. I am in awe.
Wow.
Hold on,
so
sorry.
Hang on a second. Could I, like, is there like a button to press to, like, I don't know, change a few things, a few features? Make you a little less beardy?
A little less, I mean, sorry, that's the one
cuter.
Thing I can't do.
Oh,
sorry, there's no way to do that. I can't get any cuter, Paul.
It's true.
And this is no longer the agentic Aiden. This is me. I switched him off because he was insufficiently obsequious.
Yes.
I can be more obsequious than even my robot double.
That was an awfully perspicacious thing for you to do.
I know.
A puissant decision, sir.
Wait a second. Are you agentic Paul?
You'll never know.
I guess not. No, consider it's so dark in here.
Am I agentic or just beta Paul?
Alpha Paul, beta Paul.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Yeah.
Should we take attendance?
I think that's a grand idea.
All right. So first up on the attendance sheet, heed cleanup.
Heed cleanup?
Heed cleanup.
No, I don't think there's a heed cleanup here.
Heed cleanup.
Is that like a person or a product?
I think it might be like a sign. Like it might be a British sign saying, there's work being done on the highway.
Heed the cleanup?
Heed the cleanup.
I get
like
it,
mind
yeah.
the gap.
Right.
However, this place is tidy already, so
it's so tidy.
So what I think I might have mixed up the letters.
Oh no!
And there's a first for everything.
Yeah.
Should be Paul Duchesne.
That's actually me.
Paul Duchesne. How what do you know? And let's see. Next up, we have Indo-anagram.
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 Is this like an anagram from far away?
Yes,
from an exotic land.
From the the exotic lands. How very Orientalist of you.
Yeah.
This is really. I got to apologize because I think I've done it again. It's embarrassing. I've mixed up the letters, and I should have noticed when I actually made the word anagram. But,
that might have been a tip.
A little on the nose. Yeah, a little on the tip. It's Aiden Morgan.
That's actually you.
All right, so we're here.
We're both here.
Do we have quorum?
We do not.
Oh, well. But we have a guest.
We do.
Oh.
We have Luke.
Guest.
We have Luke Grazier, manager of city projects here. Hey, Luke.
Howdy.
So this is your return visit. You were just here a little in the still winter, wasn't it? Like February-ish?
I think February, yeah. We were talking growth plan at that time.
Yeah. So I hear there's more growth plan news, like an update, a report that you guys have put together on the growth plan.
Yeah, so...
Well, not on the growth plan, but it's like monitoring growth.
Yeah, that's right. This is our, I guess, second ever now growth monitoring report. We released one back, I believe it was last fall, and this is kind of the second edition of that, reporting on economic development, housing trends really across the city, affordability, and then kind of new for this year is providing some progress updates on implementation of the city's underutilized land strategy. So I know after last year we released it, and we asked public and stakeholders for some feedback on different data they'd like to see in there. So kind of think, future iterations, this thing's just going to keep getting longer and longer. So
good, more work for you.
We might have to extend the interview timeline next year here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before last year's report, did you guys just not track growth? Did you just do stuff, cross your fingers, hope for the best?
Well, actually, it was more of just an internal exercise, for infrastructure planning and some of our land use planning. We certainly did take account of a lot of these trends, but over the years it's become more and more common for larger cities to publish this information publicly, and useful just out of interest, if that's your thing. Also, the business investment community, builders, we've heard a lot of good feedback that this information is really good for them when they're deciding whether to make an investment or where to build or develop. So it's been kind of helpful and fun to put together.
Right. So this report, because I kind of thought when the report came out, I was compiling a list in my head of everybody who'd be interested in it, and I got me and Aiden, and I kind of came up with Bupkis after that.
Yeah, it's every different strokes for different folks, for sure. If I didn't work at the city, just out of my own interests, I would personally find it of interest. But I've I like that kind of stuff. But certainly anyone out there trying to make business decisions or research even might be helpful. But
I think a lot of our listeners will be into the growth plan.
Right.
Definitely.
So can people just download this online? Yeah,
it's regina.ca/growth, and you can download a full copy of the report. There's also, some one-pagers on there if you just don't have the time to read all 78 pages and just want to look at some of the key highlights. So
91 with appendices.
Oh, yes, can't forget the appendices.
Yeah. They're dense.
Yeah.
Thick with appendices.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a classic city adage, I feel, appendices. I think this last year's budget, we were getting into the C1, C2 territories here.
Right.
Oh, yeah. No, it was you got well into the alphabet, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, the phrase, if you refer to the appendix number whatever, that came up a lot in meetings, I think.
Yeah. So anyways, I wanted to ask you about some of the stuff that came up in this report. Maybe, if we could start, it's broken up into sections like economic indicators, the state of the housing market, some of the incentive programs you guys have, and then as you said, the underutilized land development stuff. But what are the economic indicators telling us about the state of the city in 2026? Yeah, so,
from an economic perspective, in terms of our real domestic product growth compared to other cities, we're in a pretty good position relative to some of the other cities in Canada. We have seen, at least year over year, some increases in our employment rate, which is, some overall good news. And really, on our affordability side, Regina still remains, one of, if not the most affordable major city in Canada. With the RBC has an index for housing affordability, and basically 26% is what Regina was rated. So that means it would take 26% of your after-tax income to cover, average mortgage payments, utility bills, stuff like that. Compared to, Vancouver, where you're looking at close to 100%. I don't even know how that works. So, in pretty good shape there. But it tells, a really interesting story insofar as, the more affordable you are, oftentimes that can come with the added population growth, added demand, and as you kind of see the narrative a little bit in the report, if you don't have your demand and supply align nicely, that can erode affordability over time. So that's definitely a careful dance and balance. I think that we'll have to focus on over the next several years.
Yeah, because one of the things they were talking about is that currently, so this is in the housing sales section, that there's only like 1.64 months of housing supply left right now. What the heck?
Yeah.
That means that by like October, we're out of houses?
Yeah, that's really, I think, well below our 10-year average of like, I think, about 50% below. And just for, some context, typically around 6 months of supply is what they would call a balanced housing market. Once you start getting below 3 months of supply, it's what they call the seller's market. And then anything over 6 is a buyer's market. But certainly, if you talk with realtors or see some of the trends, I mean, it's very, very common to see bidding wars for homes nowadays because it's just really scarce. And even in the rental market, as well, like our vacancy rates are a little low.
It's a little lower than 3% right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, good to be affordable, and I think that's a bit of a driver, to why we're seeing a lot of that demand. And luckily on the housing side of things, we did permits equivalent to about 1,674 units last year. That's a 5-year high for us. So, I mean, that's positive to help moderate that. But, I think the city's role is really helping to ensure, we're facilitating opportunities for new housing right across the spectrum, because there's demand for rental, there's demand for single detached, there's demand for medium density. So I think that's something that, the city has been doing, whether it's trying to enable missing middle housing, making it easier for builders to develop. And I think that's, that work will, hopefully continue to pay some dividends. But
yeah.
So what factors do you think are going into this, like, short supply?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting when you dive into the numbers. So we did a growth study back in 2024, and it projected our annual population growth rate would be about 1.5%. What we've seen in the last 3 years is an annual average population growth rate of around 3.7%. So based on StatsCan estimates, over the last 3 years, 30,000 people have come to Regina. And then when you dive into the demographics of that, we're seeing that a large chunk, close to half, is from net international immigration. And then we've also seen some record highs for Regina in non-permanent residents. And so those are folks, who may be going to school here, but might be leaving afterwards or otherwise. And that can put some demand specifically on the rental market as well. So I think those are some pretty big drivers that we've been seeing. Because if you look at what we would call natural population increases, that's fertility, births versus deaths, and Regina's population would be kind of stable or even declining over time without that immigration. So that's something else why, another really cool thing about this tool is, using that to monitor some of the trends. Like we know there's been some federal government immigration shifts several years ago. So, we'll see how that might impact population growth for Regina. So you've got to keep the hand on the wheel at all times on this, for sure.
Is this like, I feel like this is a problem that every city in the country, it seems, is facing, right? Is this undersupply of housing and like rapidly increasing rents and rapidly increasing house prices. I think one of the things that we had always been told is that the market will, solve these problems. Where did the fracture come? Like, why didn't the market, the industry, the housing industry, jump to the pump and, start like pouring out that housing juice for all the people who are moving here and everywhere else, right, in the country?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's likely a couple reasons at play, and just, speaking for Regina, like if you look into the report, 5 years ago, of the total homes added, we were at 5% for infill units. Like I think in 2021 it was like something like 40 units, right? And these last couple of years we've been hitting 27%, 24%, and I think that really is a result of cutting some of the red tape, making some of the zoning changes, investing in infrastructure. So I think part of it has been maybe some of the past lack of momentum, if you will, in the infill market, utilizing some of those existing lots. And from a greenfield growth perspective, I think similarly, like when we approved the growth plan and OCP amendments last year, we did remove some barriers to new neighborhoods advancing based on past phasing policies, and are taking a different approach now to infrastructure investment to ensure we get the biggest bang for our buck and can support the most units as possible. So it's probably a little bit of both of those factors playing a little bit of catch up on the infrastructure side of things, and then getting that momentum on the infill side of the coin.
Right. What inspired administration to sort of take the reins on the housing the way that they have? Because, in here there's a lot of talk about the housing incentives. You've talked about how, infill is finally coming on due to the work that you guys have done to roll back, red tape, change up the zoning. What was the impetus for all of that? Yeah,
I think a lot of it comes really down to affordability. And, as we've started to see, demand, outpace supply, I mean, it's just become, a simple math that we're going to see escalating housing prices if stock's not being added to the market. So I think that's, obviously a really big factor. And, I think on the infill side of things too, within our official community plan and other policy documents, infill's always been recognized as a priority, whether it's the environmental benefits, the community benefits, or the tax and assessment benefits. And I think, folks in the broader community are starting to see the dividends of infill development. And I think, as part of everybody getting on side with that, that's been a little bit of the, impetus for trying to make better use of the infrastructure and services that we currently have in place, right?
Right.
Especially too, when you have infill development, there's a big cost efficiency, and when you have lots of priorities, lots of funding commitments, the economics just make sense. I love the snowplow example, right? If you have 100 people living on a street, that street's already getting plowed with a snowplow. You add another 100 people on that street, that plow is still going down there.
Right.
Versus, a new neighborhood, there's nobody out there right now, spending gas, operational hours.
Plow.
Exactly, yeah. So I think that's really starting to resonate more broadly than perhaps in the past.
Yeah. So we're on 91.3 FM, CJTR. AccessNow Community Radio, tuned into your community. We're the Queen City Improvement Bureau, and we're here with Luke Grazier from the City of Regina, talking about growth stuff.
Is this being broadcast?
Yeah? You didn't know that?
I was not in...
Do you mean that when we started doing this 11 years ago, I forgot to mention that these were being broadcast?
You did not make it clear to me. I was not given to understand that anybody would be hearing this but you.
Yeah, for the last decade, you have been broadcast over the airwaves to the City of Regina and the region around.
I am profoundly sorry to everyone.
Didn't you know that you're a celebrity out there, Aidan?
I do see people pointing at me, but I just assumed it was because my beard was so magnificent.
Magnificent beard.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Well, there's that too. And the toilet paper on your shoe.
Yeah, well, that's a fashion accessory.
Oh, okay.
I actually epoxy it.
Oh, it's like it's that heel tail story that thing that I've heard about. The heel tail. Everybody's going to have a heel tail.
Pretty soon. I got multiple colors. It's drop shipping available. Just the listeners come. Just hit me up. I'll get you your heel tail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. You know this is being broadcast, right?
What? I was not made aware.
Anyways, with the you mentioned this, the residential development indicators that we've been hitting our infill targets almost. Like this in 2024, 30% infill. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
And then 27%, 25, and 24% in 2023. Before that, it was like 5% in 2021 and 2022. Can you like think of like an infill project? Like there must have been some like big, massive movement of like infillery. Like, is there anything you can point to off the top of your head?
Well, yeah, there's a couple things that I'll point out right off the bat. Like back in the 2020, 2021, we were kind of seeing on infill, like, just one unit, semi-detached, here and there, maybe focused in, very certain neighborhoods, whether it be Cathedral or Lakeview. And then over time, we've started to see more of, the fourplex, eightplex type developments kind of scattered, a little bit more throughout the city. A lot of positive momentum in Heritage. I think that accounted for the second highest amount of infill development last year. In terms of some of the larger scale developments, you don't often think of it maybe as infill development, but there's a large, I believe it's close to 200 unit condo complex on I guess it'd be was a vacant lot on Windsor Park Road, kind of behind, I guess the East Leo's in that area. So that's, when you see some of the numbers for the Dudney East area, that's a big driver there. And then on the other side of Victoria, kind of just off Eastgate Drive, there's also some really higher density units being built. And the reason I say you don't often think of that as infill is, those lots were really holdovers from, past greenfield, development from, early 2000s and at that time. So those were really big drivers. But we're also seeing, again, some smaller scale or more gentler density in our core areas, whether that's the, like a good example, I always like it, is the Lithium Village development.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, it's an interesting name. But it's a little 12-unit gem being built up on Ottawa Street in, I can't remember which church it is. I want to say United, but don't quote me on that. And it's utilizing a good chunk of a very, very large parking lot that they had. So again, like, just making better use of land that's already in place. So
and everyone in Lithium Village is really calm.
Yeah,
super even tempered.
Yeah. What about one of the things you mentioned is like a lot of this infill has been happening over the last 5 years in Dudney East, in Arcola East. Those aren't, I think, because they straddle the ring road. I think a lot of people, as you said, don't consider it infill. I think we talked about this the last time you were on, but could you just sort of refresh our memories, because we're old?
Yes.
What are you guys doing to sort of incent that development and kick off that development, and what people think more is the core, like Heritage, like Cathedral, like North Central?
Yeah, so really good question. A lot of the incentive programs that we currently have in place, the program areas are targeted to core neighborhoods of the city center. Often in those areas, you'll get a greater incentive than elsewhere. So I mean, that's one way to try and prioritize some of that work, just through financial incentives. That's one piece, but that's only I think one part of the story here. Then there's also what I would characterize as the infrastructure and placemaking investments. So you think of the Dudney revitalization project. I think that hits both of those. Upsizing utility mains along that stretch of Dudney there to support future infill development, while at the same time making a more aesthetically pleasing streetscape to, not only support existing users, but attract investment and make it a more appealing area for that type of development. So, I think those really, I guess, three pieces are really, really important focuses. And the infrastructure investment is just so huge, and trying to invest in projects strategically, right, in the areas along primary intensification areas or key corridors or near transit that can most readily accommodate higher densities of development.
Nice. All right. Well, on that note, you can stick around for the second half. Awesome, because I've got some questions about underutilized land and commercial development.
Yeah. And we actually have a listener question.
Oh, yeah. Okay, but we have to...
But after the break.
Innovative revenue tools,
after that.
Which I will turn on right now. And we're back from Innovative Revenue Tools. So we are here with, I'm so sorry, with Luke Grazier.
Making me hungry. I'm just thinking about chocolate right now.
Yeah. Which I hear the seats are made of. Covered in vinyl. Anyway.
So you're manager of city projects, and we're talking about the growth report, the growth monitoring report. I wanted to ask you about the stuff about underutilized land. The report says that we have 715 vacant sites right now. That's loads. We could do a ton with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we've only seen 59 chronically vacant lots developed over the past 6 years. That did lead to 411 dwelling units. What's the holdup? Like, why can't we get people to build on these properties?
Yeah, I think, a lot of the development that we have seen, and that's the reason we do call out chronically vacant. So that would be, we kind of look at that as vacant for 2 or more years, because we do see a lot, and you can drive around in certain areas where people demolish an old building and then, within the year build something new on that same lot. So yeah, the chronically ones are the ones that have been vacant for a long time. Yeah. Some cases, that they can be environmentally impacted sites. In other cases, like when you break those lots down by neighborhood, they can be just in areas that historically haven't seen, the market velocity in investment. Like I think somewhere in the neighborhood of, 300 of those are in, the north central area. However, it's encouraging to see things like the land bank, right, kicking off. I think that will have a tremendous impact on some of those numbers, and helping get some development on those spaces. And I think in other areas it's been a little bit on the infrastructure side of things, and uncertainty from builders wanting to get into a project. So I think with some of the investments that have been made, and some of the I would say red tape or processes that have been expedited, whether that's through zoning or some of our, I won't get into the technical pieces on it, but some of our infrastructure and servicing capacity requirements have gotten a little bit more straightforward, I would say. So I think for some of those other sites, we're going to see some momentum on. But of course, like it's like anything, the low-hanging fruit, if you will, the sites where people can make the most money with having to put in the littlest amount of sunk costs are going to be the ones that get gobbled up first, right? And then it's those other ones that are a bit more challenging that often get left over, right?
Right. Of those 715 vacant sites, those don't include all those grotesquely underutilized parking lots that we have in the city.
Oh boy, yeah, let's tack on another 142 to that number if we're talking about this standalone surface parking lots.
Is it only 142 in the city?
So
it feels like more.
Here's the piece that's interesting on that. I said standalone because when you look at an aerial map of, say, the city center or the core, you can't differentiate between which ones are standalone. And when I say standalone, I mean you have a legal parcel. The only thing that's on that legally titled parcel is parking. But we also do have, you think of a mall, right? Well, that parking lot at the Southland Mall is on the same parcel as the mall, so we would call it as an accessory parking lot, for instance. So we do have a report going on October 7th, responding to a motion approved by City Council in January of 2025 to explore a property tax subclass for standalone surface parking lots in the city center. So that will be just wrapping up some of the consultation and analysis on that work, and that'll be an interesting discussion.
Can you give us a scoop on what it's going to say?
I can't give the scoop on what it's going to say at this point.
We're
still
not being broadcast.
Oh, right. Okay, here you go. No, but I think what I can say is it's a lot more nuanced than might initially come to mind, especially with some of the limitations on a legislative perspective for property tax subclasses. They're kind of an all or nothing type of thing. So if you put it into place, it goes to any property categorized as a standalone parking lot, irrespective of, say, that lot is contaminated or even too small to develop on. So I mean, that's kind of a challenge. Whereas you have other jurisdictions, say Vancouver, Montreal, Gatineau, their legislation's different. So in those places you can say, no, we're only going to apply them to parking lots over 5,000 square meters. And then they can also use the revenue to directly fund, in the case of Vancouver, something like TransLink. Whereas here, the taxation has to be revenue neutral. So if the property taxes go up on the standalone surface parking lots, what it will do is it will bring down, a little bit, the property taxes on developed commercial properties citywide.
Oh, that sounds like a good idea.
Citywide, yeah. But it's pretty, when you see the numbers, it's pretty small in scale. So I mean, it's interesting when you dig into the analysis, and then through some of the consultation, some of the feedback that we've been really hearing is a lot of it is market driven, and when you dive into the economics of some of these parking lots, really. I believe we only have about 42 of that 142 are kind of your classic public paid parking. Right. So, the rest are either parking lot used for an employer or business, so like SAS Power staff, for instance, or parking used for tenants of a residential building. So, those ones, they cover up off the costs to their tenants or employees through different ways, but when you do look at the public paid ones relative to the taxes they already pay, they're not as cash cows, if you will, as some might think. And so I think some of the sentiment we've heard is, if the markets was there for a lot of these, it'd be much more profitable for someone to redevelop on. Yeah. And that kind of goes back to our earlier conversation is on why it's so important, to be making sure not only the infrastructure's in place, financial incentives are also great, but also creating and fostering a positive environment for investment to get the market to that spot where it needs to be, so people will take the plunge on some of these, which can be pretty complex development projects. There's no doubt about it. So it's a very nuanced topic for sure.
I hate, you've come here, you've brought nuance. You know how we love nuance. To respond to that with, blunt, knee-jerk contrarianism.
Ooh,
but, yes, there's the money side and the legal side. But at the end of the day, parking lots are really ugly. And wouldn't it be nice to just get rid of them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're certainly, I think, the desired, goal probably for a lot of municipalities would to have all the vacant spots redeveloped. There's some really interesting approaches out there, though, that are looking at a more incremental process towards that. The City of Edmonton has a really neat program right now where they have a lot of standalone parking lots in their core area, and a lot of them aren't in compliance with bylaws. So what they've done is they've given folks, they've opened up the bylaw to allow for them to get permits for these parking lots. However, they're only temporary, so they have a 7 or 10 year gap depending on the type of parking lot. And when you do get your permit, you got to upgrade them to make aesthetic, whether it be landscaping improvements, streetscape improvements, greenery, that type of thing. And it's kind of looked at as a bit of a, mid-step, like understand, hey, maybe the market isn't where it's at now for someone to invest in a full redevelopment project, but can make it the downtown area more, friendly for walkers, visitors, cyclists. That's only going to help fostering that future state of investment needed for the redevelopment. So definitely not a Regina alone issue. And it's so interesting when you dive in and you look at, your downtown at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon and you see a parking lot and it looks half full, right? I think we've all probably have seen that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then when you actually go and you reach out and you look at, the availability in those parking lots, you can't get one. There's a wait list. One of them had that we saw a 400 people wait list. But and when you go do the visual counts, you're at half capacity. Why that is, a lot of it has to...
Ghost cars.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to go with that, actually. Yeah, that's much more compelling.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, it sounds like an 80s movie, right? Yeah. Something with Jean-Claude Van Damme, maybe, but it's really interesting, though. The hybrid work has really played a big factor in that, where people are, you're only at the office 2 or 3 days a week, but people are wanting to secure their spot, so it stays empty for the other 2 or 3 days, and that's something that other municipalities are looking at ways to try and look for more parking sharing, or part of the work that we're also going to want to look at is more comprehensive mobility strategy for the city center, because parking is just one piece of the pie, right? Like, you can get rid of parking if you somehow had a magic wand and said no more parking lots. You probably wouldn't see tomorrow all those lots redeveloped. You probably wouldn't see tomorrow everybody all of a sudden take transit, carpooling, or biking to work. But when you consider all of those factors of the transportation network holistically, I think that's the important piece not to lose sight of, because if you make investments in transit, you make it more easy for people to get downtown using transit, you provide different amenities for cyclists, that's likely a big piece in the pie and drying up the high demand on parking. Otherwise, you could have people with the mindset of, well, I'm just going to go park, as far down as I can in Cathedral, where there's no time limit, right? And I'll walk 15, 20 minutes, right? And they keep I saw it in Saskatoon when I went to school across from the university. They kept bumping it back, block by block, the 2-hour zones, and people were pretty wild by then parking on 8th Street. So that's just the behavior. But if you can look at changing that behavior, I think that is where you can see some real movement. So that's some work the team's looking to scope out right now, is developing a bit of a strategy that holistically considers all of mobility within the city center.
Awesome. We're on 91.3 FM CJTR AccessNow Community Radio. We're the Queen City Improvement Bureau. And we're here with Luke Grazier, manager of city projects, talking about city growth. So that, I apologize, that whole parking thing was a horrible digression. But it's all I think about. How on underutilized land, you mentioned the 300 units, or the 300 sites of those 715 that are in North Central. How friggin' awesome was it on Wednesday at the executive committee meeting? Growing Young Movers, they came in. They were asking for piece of property on the 1200 block of Ritalic where they could put in a shop and some storage facilities for themselves, a $300,000 grant from the city, from the Housing Accelerator Fund, to build that facility for them. And then this would all be part of their, so they're a youth group out of Scott Collegiate that maintains properties, and they would be hired by the city to maintain those land bank properties. that I was so pleased to see. That must have been fairly gratifying on the admin side.
100%, and it's so much more than just housing. It's building different competencies and skill sets. It's getting people into the workforce, and I can't even quantify the economic spin-offs or the social impacts that can really have. So it's just so great to see, and what a good program. And it was great to hear the delegate there, and really exciting.
Yeah, this is really I'm personally, just having watched council for so long, these two programs, the land bank and then Growing Young Movers, happening at the same time as part of this whole North Central Strong, North Central revitalization. This is something that I know the city has been hoping for a long time, and I personally have been hoping to see this kind of movement. This is really exciting. I hope it fulfills all of the the potential that they're bringing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely putting us down a really good path as a city, and it's going to take time. It'll be an incremental approach, but I mean, I think, as it was mentioned at council, it's similar to some work that has been done in the city of Detroit, and we've seen some amazing movement there, and it didn't take 50 years, right? It was a relatively quick turnaround, considering no offense to Detroit, what they were up against, where they started off. So I'm certainly really optimistic about this. I think there's just seems to be a renewed spirit or vibe. The community's completely behind it. So I think that's really great to see.
One of the things that Brian Lewis, he was the representative of Growing Young Movers who spoke, I think he's a teacher at Scott, and he was saying that it is really started to change attitudes in North Central, that he couldn't count the number of times that he heard young people in North Central say the city doesn't care about them, right? That North Central is basically a different city within the city, and the city doesn't matter, or that their city doesn't matter to the bigger city. And that now he has these youth through this program, they know your names, right? Administration names, and they see the city actually taking an interest in caring. And so he pointed to that, beyond the property tax spinoffs that you're going to get from developing these 300 lots over time, this sea change in attitudes, if it's sustainable, is going to be enormous.
It will be, and it has a broader trickle down effect. Not just from new builds, but I either drive or I'll go for runs in North Central. Periodically. And over the past 5 years, I can honestly say, and of course anecdotally, but the amount of homes that I've seen, either new siding put on, increased landscaping, lawns being taken better care of, You can tell, at least from my perspective. Maybe I have rose-colored glasses, but I've really noticed a shift, and that's what I mean by trickle down. Because if the whole community gets by it, I think everybody can understand the cause, right?
Yeah, awesome. I guess we have a listener question.
Yeah, we Jordan, friend of the show, not a guest ever, I think, not an improvement vector, but certainly a friend. Had a couple of quick questions. He's wondering, I think they're fairly general questions. He's wondering about, I guess, he says, in a discussion of whether or not growth is the most important thing for the city, I'm wondering if maybe he's talking about, infill versus sprawl. So just what is and this is quite general, but what is the overall priority of growth for the city?
Yeah, I mean, I think growth to any city certainly comes with benefits, whether that's from a property tax perspective to having different types of commercial businesses, a broader cultural base, different facilities that larger and larger cities can provide. I think that's one piece, but I think also it's important to ensure that the growth is done in a incremental and rational manner, right? Where you're not sprawling out with that before you can have all your infrastructure in place and sacrificing the needs of from a capacity perspective of, established neighborhoods or cities. So I think it's important to plan for growth in a comprehensive way, in a strategic way. And I think that's, partially what the growth plan is intended to do, is to try and find that balance of prioritizing, in the case of new neighborhoods, prioritizing those that require infrastructure investments that aren't just needed to serve a new greenfield neighborhood, but that also support new units in the established areas of the city and address, service issues to existing residents. The South Trunk project's a really good example. That's, be wrapping up in 2028. That kind of ticks 3 boxes. It's going to address some, existing wastewater backup risks or challenges that are facing in some areas, support greenfield growth, and help with our intensification goals. So I think it's just really about prioritizing projects wisely. And then I think the other piece that comes with growth, as well, like as I mentioned off the top, we have 30,000 people come in the last 3 years, according to StatsCan. And, if you're not planning for growth to come, that can have a really negative effect on affordability. Like if you just said, we're not doing anything, too bad. Yeah, that population growth would probably slow, but you can't put up a wall outside Regina, and you can't say that no new people can move to Regina. So, what could happen, and what we have seen in some of the data, is you see larger household sizes. Like we're seeing more people living in within one-family homes than ever before. So that higher density, and again, that's fine. That's a style of living, but then that adds additional vehicles on the road. Maybe before that house only had 3 toilets flushing, 3 showers a day. Now there's 7 or 8.
Right.
So we need to be able to plan for that, right, and plan our infrastructure systems accordingly. And what we get from new development is the taxes to help pay for that and spread it out amongst the city. And I think what's really interesting too from the infill perspective is just how our property tax system works, in terms of somewhere like North Central. I mean, the more and more assessment growth there that occurs, that's going to have a balancing effect on the redistribution of taxes citywide. Right. So, like, I think, if folks sometimes can't get behind maybe some of the, whether environmental or social benefits of infill development, I think one that often maybe doesn't always come to mind is that fiscal benefit on your tax bill. So, I guess in that long-winded response to that question, I think it's just important to plan for growth strategically in bite-sized pieces, and not bite off more than a municipality can chew, so to speak. And you look at cities in the States, right, especially some of those larger areas, and the just sprawling suburbs from the 70s and 80s, these long curvilinear streets, right, and now they're having to pay for all of the upgrades, and a lot of that infrastructure is coming to end of life. And we go back to my snowplow example, right, where you have these very low density areas, large, long, wide roads there. Well, that's only serving a certain amount of people. So I think, like, again, that's the strategic approach to it. And I think from Regina's perspective, like, we have our 50 people per hectare minimum density target for new neighborhoods, and like I think that's really important for ensuring, like in the case of greenfield neighborhoods, that the services that are being installed are serving a pretty large and dense population base.
Yeah. And that's something I don't know that a lot of people recognize, is that in some of these neighborhoods, in new greenfield developments, there's some of our most densely populated parts of the city, right? That parts of Harbor Landing and the towns, and in future Coopertown, will be more densely populated than parts of Cathedral. Right, which is our our quaint little inner city neighborhood, but really it is all just single-family homes and a shrinking population. And meanwhile, a lot of density is going into these new neighborhoods, which is exciting to see.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's the Greens, but around that 62 people per hectare. I think that's our highest in the city. And you look at some of the, older established neighborhoods. Some are at 30, 40 people, and it's really interesting. It goes down to the style of the time and the age of the neighborhood. You can see what the trends were in the 80s and 70s. You can see what the trends were in the 50s and 60s, and the density numbers tell the full story.
Yeah. All right.
Lots of people in Lithium Village, because they show up and they just sit down.
Right.
They don't leave.
Yeah. We can just stack them.
That's right.
Stack the happy people.
Yeah, just Jenga those people. Anyway.
Yeah. We're almost out of time. Almost. We have just enough time to say that it's I Love Regina Day this Saturday coming up. So that's what?
Oh, we were going to talk about the merch, but I guess we ran out of time to.
No, we can talk about the merch next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
We shall.
Yeah. So that's August 22nd, I guess.
Okay.
I Love Regina Day. Yeah.
Everybody loves Regina.
They do.
That's why they listen.
See, you're getting it. We're broadcast.
I didn't realize it until now, but I'm fully invested now.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thanks for coming in, Luke.
Absolutely.
Thanks for putting up with
always.
Let's adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that motion if that's what you're making.
That's the motion I'm making. Motion is passed. Meeting is adjourned. You've been listening to the Queen City Improvement Bureau on 91.3 FM, AccessNow Community Radio. Tune into the community. Our guest today was Luke Grazier, our host Paul Deschen and Aidan Morgan. Music by Guidewire, a.k.a. Ryan Hill. We are broadcasting live Thursday evening, 7 p.m. and again we broadcast 3 4 p.m. on Mondays. You can find us on radio on accessnowradio.ca, also on our website, QueenCIB.com, and on Blue Sky. Please, Paul Deschen, PD City Hall, and me, Dougie Jones, is at the jacket. That is all. Keep on improving, Regina.